Alright, hello everyone. I just kind of wanted to make a video. Everybody is, in my house is kind of taking a nap and sleeping on this Sunday afternoon. Even my dogs are sleeping right now, so, until they hear me talking, then they'll probably come up here. I'm in my room, just kind of hanging out for a minute. But, the reason that I wanted to make this video was, I've had a couple people say a few things to me about why I always, at the end of all my videos, leave the message about, stay positive and, that kind of thing. And so I have, and I have another channel. I have a channel that I do that's a beauty channel. And so at the end of that, of all my videos, I always leave with the message, and tell everybody, hey, stay positive. Um, no one can get you down more than you get yourself down. But and I try to say that sort of similar, at the end of the videos that I do on this channel too. And the reason that I do that is because I have been through so many ups and downs in my life. Um, I went somewhere last night and I was talking to my friend's stepdaughter, and she's just a younger girl, and I don't really even remember what the whole conversation was or what it was about, but I just kind of, I remember just saying something to her like, hey, stay positive, just stay positive, and you know, believe me, if you're in a situation where you feel, kind of down or whatever, get back up, never let life keep you down. um, just don't worry about making mistakes. That's how we learn our lessons in life, never be afraid to make a mistake, never be ashamed of the mistakes you made. Um, there's never anything in life that you do that you can say, I didn't learn from that, so, and it's kind of like the message that I try to tell everybody. And, I've always tried to tell my kids that too, look on the positive side. Yes, that didn't work out, but, you learned from that. You're not, you won't do that again. You can tell somebody else and teach somebody else that too. So, I've struggled with depression all my life, and I've had times where, it's definitely got the best of me. So I am, 50 years old, and I feel like I've just now, learned to not let it get the better of me. So, at 50 years old, I mean, I don't know what, like, I'm in like midpoint of my life. Another 50 years, I'd be 100 years old. So, like, I don't know, how do you gauge that, so, I mean, I can remember being like a small child, and I was an only child, and I always knew, like, probably something was wrong with me, because my, um, my way of thinking was not the way that the other kids were thinking. Um, they would, while they were off doing, whatever, and all having these little, whatever, happy thoughts or whatever, I'd be like, dark kind of things, morose kind of things in my head. Just, it wasn't my fault. I mean, if you're chemically imbalanced, you're chemically imbalanced, but when I look back on it and I try to remember things or whatever, like, when did this happen to me or whatever, it's just, I've always been this way. I have always been this way. So, after I had my first child, I did get a little bit of postpartum depression, but not really, really badly. But I still lived at home. I lived with my mom and my grandmother, so I had like a tremendous amount of help, and so I didn't really get too very depressed. But after my second child, I was married. I was in a very, very bad marriage, and I told you as soon as I started talking, I told you my dogs would hear it and they would come right up here. They are so nibby. But yes, so after my the birth of my second child, I was in a very, very bad marriage, and I didn't, I wasn't living at home. I was, by myself. So I already had a child, and he was just turning 2, and it was a very, very, very dark time. And my daughter was born with colic. I didn't know what colic was. I never babysatted babysatted. I never babysat when I was a teenager or anything like that. I didn't, like I said, I was an only child, so I didn't have any brothers or sisters. I didn't really have cousins or anything. I had no idea what colic was. And, it wasn't like the kind of colic where, they cried a little bit or whatever. I mean, she had like the true version of colic where, she cried all day and all night. So I had no idea what to do to help her. I felt like a failure as a mother. But like sleep deprivation was starting to work in, and then of course, like I had a 2-year-old, so I was trying to take care of him too, and it was terrible. But I got postpartum depression horribly, and it was probably one of the very worst times of depression that I went through. It was awful, just awful. I can remember just the horrible dark thoughts that went through my head were horrific. I called my mom at one point and said some crazy off the wall things, and it was kind of getting later in the evening, and the next thing I remember, she was like real sweet on the phone, and boom, she was at my door. So I've been really lucky that I've had good people in my life and in my corner. But I've had a lot of therapy. I've had a lot of counseling, and unfortunately for me and my family, it seems like a really predominant thing that all of the women have been predisposed to a lot of the mental illness. My daughter has struggled terribly and still does also. My son struggles with it a little bit, but he does pretty well. He does much better than my daughter does. But he's more willing to talk and so forth. But he did have a couple rough patches or so forth. But when they were younger, I always talked to them and let them know it's okay. If you have any kind of, feelings about anything about anyway, it's okay, to talk about it. And I'm so glad that, we are starting to recognize and talk about, mental health issues now here, in the United States, and that people are not ashamed of it anymore, and that they're really willing to get help and things like that, of course, like I said, I was diagnosed bipolar with other underlying types of little things, but that was my main diagnosis, under bipolar and some depression issues and things. So anyway, through counseling and different medications, it's like I said, I've learned to recognize different signs, and when little things start to creep in, or I start to feel a certain way, or you know what I mean, I know, like, okay, this happened. Don't let this control you. Don't let this run the rest of your day or whatever. And it can be hard, but again, like I said, at 50 years old, I'm finally learning to not let my emotions, not let like these little someone else's words, or little things like dictate how my life is going to be. And I finally feel kind of like free from being chained by all these emotions all my life. So yeah, if I can help somebody, even like one little thing that I might say might click with somebody, and they might say, wow, I didn't think of that, or whatever. So that's why I always say at the end of all my videos, we can be our own worst enemy, really. Somebody might say something to you that might be hurtful, but let it go. Let it go. Let it go. No one has power over you like you do. That person doesn't know you. They don't know what's inside of you. They can try to push your buttons. They can, and that's what they're doing. Sometimes it's so hard for me, all my life, the hardest thing that I've done is make friends, have relationships, whether they, with being, whether they're friendships or getting into, a new relationship, with a guy or whatever. But letting someone in, for me, and making myself vulnerable is always the hardest part, because once that person knows things about you, they're, they can use those things against you. And you know what I mean? I'm like, I want to put up a wall. I don't want people to know anything about me. I don't want to get hurt. Those are self-defense things that people do. And everybody has different things that they do to protect themselves. That was just mine. I've always been a loner. I've just always been that lone wolf that I don't need anybody. I don't need anybody. I don't want anybody. I would imagine at my age now, I'll have a hard time breaking myself of that. But I'm trying to be, more approachable, and let more people be part of my life, in some ways. But you just have to tell yourself that you're the one that has the power. You're the one that has the power over your life. So, for instance, I used to be very, very overweight. I had some health problems, and and I had become very, very overweight. So there was a member of someone in my family, indirect family, that would say things behind my back, and it would hurt me. And when I think about it now, it still upsets me. And I have to tell myself, let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Karma is a bitch. It really is. And it is going to come back to these people. You don't have to do the best thing you can do. The best thing you can do is be happy. Be happy. Let it go, and that's really what you need to do. Don't give in. Don't give anybody power over your life. Be happy and let these things just go off of your heart and off of your soul, and be happy. If you wake up every day with a heavy heart and with all these things weighing you down, you will not be happy. Depression will rule your world. It will run your life. You will become bitter and you will become angry and you'll live a miserable life. But if you can learn to let things go and just tell yourself, people who go around and are mean and angry and spread gossip and, want to bring other people down must be really miserable people inside. Really, they must be. Don't go to their level, you know what I mean? You have a life. You got things going on. You got, a family, if you've got kids, if you've got, a husband, a wife, or whatever it is, focus on that. Focus on the good things in your life and let all those other things go. It's like I said, we can be our own worst enemy. If you let all these bad things just keep twisting and twisting in your head, you'll never be able to live a happy life. So just let that BS go, Don't drag your shit cart around with you all the time, Unhook and let it go. And you'll see how much better you feel. I'll share one last little thing with you that someone told me so many years ago, and I tell this to everybody that I, become involved with. I told it to my kids when they were growing up, and I share it with them every now and then. Sometimes, if my son might be having a really hard time or struggling with something, I'll reminding him of this. But I met a woman years and years ago, probably been 25 years ago now. She was a really smart, wise woman. But she told me one time, you'll meet a lot of people in life that try to drag you down. And it goes along with the old saying, misery loves company, things like that. And she asked me, had I ever done any fishing or anything like that? And I said, a little bit, And she said, well, have you ever seen the fishermen that have caught crab or anything like that? And no. She said, well, and now this is back before they had the internet and things like that, but if you can go and you get on the internet now and you look up, crabs in a bucket, you will see that when they catch crabs and throw them in a bucket, that's all they do. They don't put anything on the bucket to keep the crabs in. There's no lid, there's nothing holding them in there. There's just the crabs. They just throw them in there. How do they stay in? They stay in because when one crab tries to climb up and get a hold of the edge of the bucket to get free, all the other crabs grab a hold of that crab that's trying to get free and pull him back down. And none of the crabs ever get out. And so moral of the story, just when someone's trying to get out and pull themselves out of the bucket and, get to freedom, get to the top, someone's always there to pull you down and grab you down. Don't be a crab in the bucket. Don't put yourself in that situation. And I'm a visual person, so I like to learn that way. I like, when I can visualize something, I learn it much quicker. And I know they're finding out now that they have a lot of these schools that are popping up now and helping kids, like with testing. Some kids can really learn, but when it comes time to test, they don't test well or whatever, and they're finding out like a lot of kids are very visual. So that's just something that is like a visual for you to think about. Like, think about that, all those crabs in the bucket, but nothing holding them in, their own misery. And it's life. That's life. We're all crabs in a bucket. Don't be like that. If someone is like ready to have success, if something good happens to somebody be happy for that person, because it could be you. If somebody gets a scratch off ticket and they win, $250, be happy for them. Like, if you can share someone else's happiness and be truly happy for them and share that and be genuinely happy for somebody, that shows that you can be selfless. Be happy for that person. If you have a friend and they get a new car, be happy for them. Maybe they went through hell and to get that new car. Maybe they didn't, but whatever. Don't be envious. Don't covet. Just be happy for them, because when you let someone else eat you up inside, it takes away your happiness, So, I don't know. I guess the basic, message in this video, like I said, somebody asked me, why do I always say that at the end of my videos? Why do I always tell people that in life? Is because, really what you put out into the world is going to come back to you. How you feel about yourself is going to be what other people will think about you also. If you're a miserable shit all the time, that's what people are going to think about you. If you're a happy, lovely person, that's what people are going to think about you. If you go around and you're a bitch all the time, well, what do you think people are going to think about you? You're a bitch. So, don't be like that. Yeah. So don't be your own worst enemy, people. That's all. Don't be your own worst enemy. If you're having a bad day, everybody has them. You're allowed to have a bad day. I have bad days still. You know what I mean? Sometimes I think to myself, I'm having a bad day, like both of my kids don't even live near me. They live, like 5 and 6 hours away. I miss them all the time. I miss my grandkids. That gets the best of me sometimes, and I will cry my eyes out, but then, you know what? It's over. It's done with. I pick myself up and I tell myself, well, it could be worse. Something could have happened. Something could happen and I might not have my kids. Something could happen and one of them could fall ill. So, you know what I mean? At least I can pick up the phone and still talk to them. I could get in my car and drive and see them. They could get in their car and drive and see me. So, you know what I mean? Don't make things worse than they have to be. But, so yes, don't be your own worst enemy. Try to, try to make the best of all the situations that you can, and, life will be a better place for you. Alright, so now I'm done babbling, and I hope that this message meant something to you. I hope that you'll get something out of this. And yeah, so that was that. I hope that you'll give this a thumbs up. I hope you'll subscribe. and tell everybody else about this channel. I'm trying to bring you as much content as I can. You know, this channel is really basically just kind of what it is. You know, life, love, chaos, and dogs, and that's it. You know, it's just a channel about life, and this is just a part of life. You know. So anyway, have a great Sunday. I am going to do a little bit of crocheting, cook some dinner, and just chill out. So have a great day, and again, stay positive. Don't let life get you down. Don't be your own worst enemy. Always wear pink. It will always make you feel better. Kiss some puppies. I love you guys. Have a great day.